pretty upset call from a home buyer the day before settlement that the cash to close is $4,000 more than the estimate I'd gave them. So the loan officer, I always give an estimate when people are buying a house that includes the payment, an itemization of the fees, and the cash to close. So I call my processor and I ask, what is this buyer looking at? She says to me that the settlement company send a final disclosure to the buyer and there's an additional $4,000 added to that. And I'm like, what is it? She says, well, it's an amount from the agent directly to the buyer. And I'm asking her, is this in any of our documents? Do we see this? She's like, no, we've never been told this. It's brand new. So the fees we've been telling the buyer are off by $4,000. I was like, so I called the agent and I was like, hey, this buyer is pretty upset because the fees are $4,000 higher than we disclosed. Plus, he doesn't actually have the money to pay this. She explains to me that when he had signed up to go with her, he'd agreed to pay her 3% of the purchase price, but the seller would pay that. But in this particular case, the seller had paid her only 2%, $8,000, and he owed her the extra $4,000, and he had to come up with that. I was like, but he doesn't have the money. And she said to me that his brother had agreed to give him a gift if he was short in the transaction, and that I should call the buyer and tell him that the brother should give him this $4,000 so she could get her full $12,000, not $8,000. And she's telling me this the day before settlement. I was like, no way. I'm not making that phone call for you. You need to call the buyer and tell him he owes you $4,000 additional and he can call his brother. He can send us the paperwork and we'll document it, but I'm not making that call for you the day before settlement. I've been telling him the numbers are $4,000 less the whole time because I had no idea that this was going on. We go back and forth and she's a little upset at me and she gets off the phone. And I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy that this is happening right now today. So about half an hour later, a new worksheet comes to me and that fee has been removed. So the agent never called the buyer or the brother or did anything. She must have called the settlement company and just had that fee removed.